Hello and welcome to another episode of Death by Bunjie. We are going to look at Killer Instinct crossbows right here on this January morning. I'm doing a bunch of videos today about some new stuff because this is the time of year when manufacturers come out with exciting new crossbow gear. And we're going to take a look at it here, right here, just like it says, new for 2025. Look at that. We have Killer Instinct crossbows. What more can you ask for? We're going to scroll down a little bit. Can we click on that? We can. We're going to click right on that, and it'll take us to the new crossbows, perhaps. Perhaps we will look at the new crossbows. And look at these crossbows. Something interesting right here. First thing I see, there's an X in the name of each crossbow. Wow, that's pretty cool. The LogiX, or LogiX. LogiX. The FanatiX, or FanatiX. The Temper X. Okay, what does the X's mean? They mean X cams, right? Like the SWAT X1, the SWAT XP. SWAT, interestingly, right? SWAT is the line of crossbows from Killer Instinct that had a barrel, an enclosed barrel. Have we seen one of them before in Death by Bunjie? I think we have. I think we have. It's the Enforcer. It's the Patriot. And a yet unnamed, but to be named, SWAT X1 with some pretty scary looking grips on it. So we've got some really cool crossbows from Killer Instinct, and I've had some of them here on Death by Bunjie. I fell in love with the SWAT X1 because of that enclosed barrel, but it's set up so nice and felt so nice with the Burris Oracle X. It's just a perfect setup for me, and I do love that. However, we look on here, Killer Instinct, no new SWAT crossbow. And I've been talking about this a little bit in some of the videos. If we go on crossbows, right, and we look on crossbows, say it ain't so. Say it ain't so, Killer Instinct. We look through here, lots of new stuff, lots of names. I'm scrolling through. I'm on page 1. I'm going on to page 2. I'm still looking. I see lots of cool crossbows, but I don't see a SWAT X1 for sale by Killer Instinct. Nowhere. We still have the Vital X, which is a cool crossbow. Shot that last year. Love that crossbow. We got some other good stuff on here, do we not? We got the Burner 415. That is it's on sale. Ooh, it's on sale. $3.99 for a Burner 415. Go snatch that up. I'm telling you right now, that's a pretty good bargain. They've got some great crossbows. Killer Instinct's got a great line, right? And they're not the most expensive crossbows. They're all in that, low Walmart $250 up to $1,000 for the SWAT X1. But we don't see the SWAT X1 on here anymore. I checked 2 weeks ago, it was on here, but you could not put it in your cart. And now looking at the website, it is not even listed. It's as though the SWAT X1 never existed. So that's bad news. It's sad news, but we do have some new crossbows we're going to look at. It does not look like Killer Instinct is going to make any more SWAT X1s. So I have 3 of them. I'm very happy with that. That'll last me a long time until something newer and better comes along and it suits me even better than the SWAT X1. Hopefully they will last me. If you are interested in the SWAT X1, you're probably going to pay a little extra for a leftover at Sportsman's Guide or someplace on eBay, something like that. The last one I bought used. So snatch up those SWAT X1s if you are interested in those crossbows. They are a wonderful piece of crossbow technology that I think will be with us for a long time. It will be remembered for a long time. It's a very interesting design. And whether they make more of those down the road, I have no insider information, but we will find out together. But we still have some exciting things to look at with Killer Instinct. Let's begin doing that. We'll start with the number one here, LogiX, right? We'll click on that, the LogiX. That is 435 RDC crossbow kit. Wow. This shoots 435 feet per second according to Killer Instinct. Now, in my last video, when I talked about the Excaliburs, I was a little critical of Excalibur getting 350 with a 350, right? They're using a 350 grain total arrow weight to achieve 350 feet per second. 350 is not really a realistic arrow weight, in my opinion, as a modern crossbow hunter. I like to see something 400 and above, right? Somewhere in the 400s, and I think you're pretty solid with modern crossbow equipment. I'd also like to be shooting around 400 feet per second with that 400 or so grain arrow. This Killer Instinct 435, don't know what arrow weight they use for that. We're not even going to try and measure it, I don't think. The reality is, however, that we get Probably not 435 with this crossbow. Killer Instinct, a lot of them, they advertise speeds up to 435, and I don't see that with my experience. I'm not seeing the 405 I was supposed to get with the SWAT X1s. All the Killer Instincts are going to have, they're going to be a little speed challenge. This is advertising 435. And I'll tell you, if for $799, right, $799, wow, if I spent $799 and I got over 400 feet per second with this crossbow, I would be pretty happy with it, especially because I'm looking at it and look what it does. Right here, right here. Decock the crossbow easily and safely without shooting. That's worth the $800 to me. We're going to look at Killer Instinct's Facebook page for an example of how to decock this crossbow.
5 is the LogiX. The LogiX is a powerhouse of a bow. Shoots 435 feet per second.
Whew.
It's equipped with our patented XCam technology and has some great features like an adjustable buttstock, aluminum shooting rail, and it also comes with our Pro package, including the scope.
It did not say that on the other one, aluminum shooting rail. To me, that is big. I do like that over the polymers and the combo, the composites or whatever they are, the ones that can change a little bit with temperature deviations. You hear people complain about that.
Cocking device as well as bolts. The great features on this bow is the ability to decock it.
Here we go. A rope.
All you have to do is put the switch in the decock form.
All right, so we can cock and decock with a rope or the crank. Pretty cool.
Pull back and let down. Check these out on killercrossbows.com.
And we have checked it out on killercrossbows.com. That is pretty sweet. Did you see how smooth that was, even compared to the original Bunjie? When I decock that, I can decock it, but it's 175 pounds, and it's raring to go, and you pull that trigger and kaboom. It makes a lot of noise when you do it. This is smooth and quiet, even decocking. That is a powerful thing. I do like that. What a great feature. We're talking about denser. Again, I'd love to see crossbows keep getting faster, but I also like seeing them improve the features. I like that because that's denser. It's all these things. It's not just faster that we're looking for, although this one's kind of faster, right? It's up in the speeds, the overall speeds for this crossbow manufacturer. But it's also denser, has more features. I never liked cranks, but I do like integrated cranks. This has a form of integrated crank. Now, let's look at some pictures here real quick and we'll see what we're talking about. But that is a nice looking crossbow. Really interesting camo design. I do like the Killer Instinct. They have a unique camo design on their crossbows usually. Do have a stirrup out front that will protect that broadhead. Look at that field point in there. This has a field point on it. You guys that fancy your fixed blade broadheads might be a little challenged on a crossbow like this because that fixed blade broadhead will be seated inside the riser, and it might conflict with that. It might not have enough room for that. And that's what I'm talking about right here, this space right here that's in the riser. Your broadhead would be in here. Now the Swhacker is going to sit in here just fine, I think. Our Swhacker will be no problem. But we do have a stirrup to protect the front end of that crossbow. If your broadhead sticks out in here, you're fine. That stirrup is going to protect it. That's pretty cool. Nice long power stroke. That is a thing with crossbows, is it not, with modern crossbows, these narrow crossbows. Look how narrow that is. And we've got a pistol grip, real nice pistol grip. Looks like an AR-15 style pistol grip. We probably can remove that and change it out with our choice of AR-15 grip, or if you prefer, a modified version to a 1911 grip like I like. So that's a pretty cool thing. We look back here, we have the buttstock with the crank built in. Now the handle's probably coming off of there. I suspect that handle comes off, goes in your bag. Hopefully you don't lose it. Hopefully you keep it around and have it when you need it. But the hooks are tucked in nicely here, and I think we have other pictures of that. I did look at these a little bit ahead of time just because I was curious about them. Now this is a diagram showing the decocking feature. That is a big add-on, a big bonus for this crossbow. Our handle and our hooks, as you can see, snap in place. Not necessarily the biggest fan of what is essentially a crank with a rope cocker that feeds in and out here and has the string. Not necessarily my favorite. I like the trigger box going down, and I never thought I would say that. The idea that the trigger box is moving, going down the rail, retrieving the string and coming back, sounded like a recipe for disaster to me. I was always a little concerned about that. But I gotta tell you, seeing that in action on a Raven R29X, I love it. Excalibur has a model like that. The 10 points do stuff like that. That is a really positive thing. This does not have that as an option. It is instead essentially a add-on crank that's built into the crossbow. right, with the ropes and the hooks that go down there and you hook on and you pull back. That's still better to me than having an additional crank that I got to take on and off and put on. I don't like taking cranks on and off the crossbow. That's not a thing for me. And I'm not the biggest fan of cranks, but I'm coming around, okay? Well, here we see a side view. I like the foregrip. This is a good looking setup. Very similar foregrip to the R29X. We have the width here, uncocked, 10.75 inches. However, I suspect to the outside of the cam, we're looking at more like 13 inches. Bunjie, 36 inches, right? I'm okay with 13 inches or so wide on the outside of the cams. That's going to work for me. This is another view of that with that field point on there. With the broadhead, it's going to come clear out here, but there is plenty of room in there to protect your Swhacker or other choice of mechanical broadhead. And of course, you're using mechanical broadheads, right? We're crossbow hunters. Of course you're using a mechanical broadhead. It's 2025. Of course you are. Why are we talking about this? You look here, here's the problem with this crossbow for me, and it might be, it might not be for you, and it might not be a problem for me, because we're going to talk about a potential thing here, a thing. We're going to talk about it. Look at that cantilever design. I don't really care for that design of scope rail. This just is mounted. That's all that's attached to the crossbow, and it hangs out here like this. These brushes right here are what are holding the arrow steady as it goes down the rail. Very important. That's a common design. I do like that. But we have this right here. This right here, that scope rail is, all the weight of that scope is sitting out here on the end of that rail. So it's like this, right? It's like going to bounce on you, right? And you got all that weight of the scope up here, like a diving board, right? I don't like that. I see why it's that way, because if you look at the side view of this crossbow, again, where are they going to mount it? They're going to have to do some kind of thing coming down onto the side of the barrel, I guess. I don't know. My biggest problem with that is, of course, is the Burris Oracle X, right? The Burris Oracle X, pretty heavy scope. And if we put that scope on this crossbow, that's almost 2 pounds out at the end of that diving board. Every time you fire the crossbow, that vibration is going to affect not only your shot, but it's going to weaken that scope rail, I think. And that's a problem. And it's going to create vibration that can ruin the scope. Not a good thing. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? We have a video coming up. My next video will be a look at a new product from Killer Instinct. It's a range-finding scope that's a little bit lighter. Might be the perfect ticket for this crossbow. That might be it. If you can do that, if you put a range-finding scope on this crossbow, I am telling you, you have a winner. To be able to take a crossbow like this with the decock ability and the X cams. The X cams are synchronized, highly efficient designs with 56% let off for an easier to cock crossbow that's smoother and quieter on the shot. Is this smoother? Is it quieter? Synchronized X cams are a higher end product that can help alleviate timing issues. Very important to me. So I like the X cams, and I like the fact that even though they're not going forward with the SWAT series, that enclosed barrel, they still are looking at X cams for these newer crossbows and increasing the number of crossbows they offer with X cams. Is it quieter though? Friend of Bunjie Jim, a Raven fan, shot the SWAT X1 in the 60-yard backyard.
That shoots smooth.
You like that?
I mean, there's hardly any kick.
Judging by his reaction, yeah, I think it's a little bit quieter, a little bit smoother. Oh yeah. Integrated rapid draw crank. It is going to be a lot faster if you don't have to put that crank on and take it off. May not be the best crank in the business, but it is a good option, I think. And that is a big thing to me, that you can decock it. Man, that's big. It comes with a Killer Instinct scope. I don't think they have the greatest reputation for scopes, but those aren't a big deal to me. I would be looking at the Burris anyway, or some kind of range-finding scope. Anyway, does have an anti-dry fire system that is wonderful and a limited lifetime warranty. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Now the speeds, again, we're advertising up to 435 feet per second. That will give us kinetic energy of 155.50 foot-pounds. What are we going to do? You know what we're going to do. You know, because you're smart. We are going to the calculators, arrow weight used to get manufacturers' stated specs. This one, they're claiming 435, and they're stating 155.5 total grains. And we're going to click calculate arrow weight. They got that speed with a 370 grainer. Now, we're not hunting the 370 grainers. You understand? Very similar to my criticism of Excaliburs. I don't care about that. However, look at this. Look at this though, 0.714 slugs of momentum. We are in the 0.7 slugs of momentum category, that class of modern crossbows with this crossbow, even with a wimpy little 370 grain arrow. Now, let's say that we can realistically get 400 with a 445. grainer, okay? And I bet we can probably come. Oh, sorry, Gary. We're on the wrong calculator. That's what that means. Sorry about that, Gary. Gary's like, Rich, come on. Don't you know this stuff better than that? Old Grumpy Hunter. He's going to give me a hard time about that one. Well, we can just use the basic arrow kinetic energy and momentum calculator. Let's say we can do a 400 with a 445. Not saying we can do it. Haven't shot that crossbow. Probably not getting the 435 with that 370 in my basement on a chronograph. Sometimes, you know, like that's a thing. If we can get 400 with a 445, though, that's dropping down 35 feet per second from the advertised speed. But if we're in that category, we're at 0.79 slugs and 158 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. Kaboom. That is a modern speed, and we're getting closer to the ultra-modern speeds and energy numbers with this. Once you get into the 0.8s, I think you're safely in the ultra-modern energy categories. So we're really doing well as far as the energy that this crossbow will produce. You can put a heavier arrow in there, protect the limbs of the crossbow a little bit, save some energy dissipation in the crossbow, put that into the arrow instead with a heavier arrow, and you'll reduce the speed a little bit, but you're still going to be in modern speeds, 390, 400 feet per second, maybe 405, something like that, shooting a fast arrow that gets to the deer before the deer can move. And when it gets there, it's got all that extra energy, right? It's got leftover energy in the arrow to go through that deer, enough to get through that deer and let us use whatever broadheads we want. This is a little on the heavy side. It's 8.4 pounds. The draw weight is 210 pounds, power stroke of 15 inches. That's how it's getting those higher speeds. So it's drawing it back an awful lot more. But there is a let off on that. So when we've got it cocked, it's sitting there at 56% less weight on that. So it's like 100 pounds instead of 210 pounds. Like it's just sitting there with less weight on it. Still a lot, but it's not the 300 pounds we would see with other crossbows where you don't have a let off. That's the difference. And I was trying to make that point in the last video. So hopefully that got through in the last video. This is a good looking crossbow, but I don't want to spend all of our time on this crossbow because we have other ones to look at. That was the LogiX. Let's go to the FanatiX 415 crossbow kit. Guessing it shoots speeds up to 415 feet per second. That's what I'm betting. $449. Holy cow. We live in a great world where that crossbow hanging on the wall shooting 305 feet per second, $550 back in 2010. Now we're looking at a crossbow shooting 415, 110 feet per second faster. This is shooting 415 with a lighter arrow, but you're still going to be shooting close to 400 with a 400 grainer or above. And that's pretty cool. Well, now this one does not have the decocking technology. The decocking only really becomes important when you're hunting. And if you're one of those guys that hunts 2 times a day, like you do a morning hunt and an evening hunt, that's a lot of cocking and decocking if you hunt a lot. I prefer the hunts where you don't have to decock. You know what I'm saying? But you don't always get that. You don't always get that. Very similar platform to the LogiX. And we do have the X cams on that one because it has X in the name. And we see that here. We also see that it has a quick attach crank, very similar to the other styles of Killer Instinct crossbows. What we have here, though, the selling point for this one, you've got a really good modern speed for $449. Holy cow. I can't believe it. With X cams. This one has an adjustable stock. That's pretty cool. So we do have that stock that you can move back. A 3-position butt stock. That's pretty cool. Go back up here and look at some other new ones because they got a lot. The Temper X. This is Temper X. Temper-X. Very good. So it's $349. Holy cow. Man, they're just giving this stuff away anymore. The prices of these compared to what we were looking at with 10-point Raven. Holy cow. Killer Instinct, what I love about them, they are the people's crossbow company, right? They are a company that puts together stuff. They don't sell stuff over $1,000. They've got like the $999 was the high price point for the SWAT X1, which was their flagship until now, I guess. But now it seems like the $799 is their high price point crossbow for a brand new model that shoots 435. Now we're looking at a brand new crossbow for $349, weighs 7.6 pounds. That's pretty sweet. Is the same width and length by the looks of things, 10.75 uncocked. That is not a particularly wide crossbow. Again, we're looking at 13 inches, that same 13 inches or so when we look at it from the outside of the cams, right? The true measurement of the width of that crossbow. What are we shooting? How fast are we shooting? Do we know? 405 feet per second. So we got a modern speed crossbow for $349 with X cams. With one of the best pieces of technology that Killer Instinct as a company can offer you with the X cams. They're putting this on a crossbow for $349. Smaller, faster, lighter, denser, cheaper. That's how we evaluate crossbow technology, just like we evaluate all the other technology on the planet. And that's generally what happens with technological advancements. Here, we see cheaper, that's for sure. $405, $349, you've done that before, but you haven't done it before with X cams. That's denser. That's another feature. Denser refers to feature-rich technology, and this is a feature. So my last video was Excalibur's newest stuff. This video is Killer Instinct's newest stuff. My next video is a little bit of both. We're going to be looking at scopes. We're going to be looking at a couple of crossbow scope options that are out there from each company, and we're going to hopefully have some interesting stuff. I've got some rumors of stuff, and we're going to do a video about that next. New stuff for 2025. Until that time, all hail Bunjie.